Hi, this is Kay from Breaking the Spells. This is just a little introduction to a video that's coming up. It's a re-edit about critical facts about minerals. There's so much misinformation out there that's like a jungle that you're trying to wade through to find out what's really true and what really works. There are many different ideas about the sources of minerals, whether they're supplements or food, and the types of food and the quality of food, and what they do to your body or the body of your loved ones or your animals. It's really important information. It took me a really long time to gather this information and to see that it's quite accurate and it works really well. And plus, it's very logical. When you see this video, you're going to really think, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Wow, that's really logical. Wow, that's really good to know. And I can try things and find out whether she's full of it or whether it's really good information. Well, this is what I live by, this kind of stuff, this searching for information and seeing if it really works. And I'm just offering it to you. Here it comes. It's an older video that's been improved. Thank you. Hi, this is Kay. This video is about minerals. I really want to focus on the difference between minerals which are from food and minerals which are from supplements. The powers that shouldn't be have just more or less thrown mineral supplements at us, and we're to assume that 500 milligrams of magnesium from a supplement is the same as 500 milligrams of magnesium from plant food. This is not so. Here is the big deal. When plants put their roots into the ground, the dirt they touch, the rocks they touch, are a source of minerals for them. They digest, they absorb through their roots, and it goes through what can be called their bloodstream, which is chlorophyll. It is the liquid that flows through their veins, for lack of a better word. And they digest these minerals into being thousands of times smaller than the minerals from either a mine, the ground, the dirt, or the rocks. Most mineral supplements are from a mine. They're literally from rocks or dirt. Their molecules are thousands of times too large. One of the biggest problems from these minerals is they can clog anywhere in your body. The calcium supplements are known for causing up to 1/3 of kidney stones. A lot of artery plaque that's blamed on cholesterol and other mysterious causes is actually calcium buildup from mineral supplements. When you get minerals from plants, they are the right size to easily get into and out of your cells, to get into them to be used, to get back out so that there's not too much of a buildup. Plus, plant food is really high in magnesium, which breaks up deposits of minerals that should not be there. This is very important. We've been a subject of misinformation. We've been a victim of misinformation from the global supplement industry, the global medical industry. There are doctors telling people, take calcium for your bones. Well, let me tell you, here's another huge one. Magnesium is the main mineral in quantity that people are lacking. Magnesium is high in sour fruits and in dark green vegetables. Magnesium makes it makes the other minerals work. It makes them get where they're supposed to go within your cells. And let's kind of picture the cells, for example, in your muscle. And remember, your heart is a muscle too. The magnesium is the one that actually creates movement and relaxation. Contrary to global misinformation, it's not the calcium that relaxes you. I like to use my hands, bear with me. If this were a cell or a muscle and you add extra calcium to it, especially calcium that is not from plant food, it actually makes it contract. It's magnesium that lets it let go. And there's supposed to be a movement back and forth. This is where energy comes from, largely from calcium and magnesium. We are designed to get our minerals from plants. We are designed to have much more magnesium than calcium. Magnesium is a troubleshooter. It actually rids the body of excess buildup of minerals. That's why it's in formulas with herbs to remove and break up kidney stones, along with other plant lubricants such as, say, marshmallow root, slippery elm, some other herbs. I won't go into it right now. But you absolutely need more magnesium than calcium. I only know one company who makes a product like that. I am not going to name brands. I really want to stay away from that. But it has almost double the magnesium to the calcium. So if you're having muscle cramps, if you're having tightness, you're probably not eating enough well-digested green plant-based food, and you might be from your supplements themselves. A most critical factor of what minerals do, if you think of, say, jewels in watches or components of electronics that may have gold or other minerals in them to conduct messages. Minerals are message conductors in our entire body and brain, which is body too. It is critical to get the right minerals in you, the right size minerals in you to conduct your energy. They are conductors, not just builders. They're conductors. This is very, very important. The star of the mineral content from plants is chlorophyll. It's what makes plants green. The greener they are, the more the chlorophyll. Of course, all plants have to have chlorophyll. Plants make chlorophyll from water and sunshine. Sunshine is not evil. Sunshine in and of itself does not cause cancer. Sunshine is so downplayed with sunscreens and things that block the sun and chemtrails. No wonder the chemtrails are there. They're keeping us from producing our own vitamin D, and also they are, they're in the way of the plants producing the amount of chlorophyll that they should have. Chlorophyll is called plant blood by really, really smart old-time nutritionists who did not get their nutrition from the globalists. It is the liquid that runs through the plants. The plant blood is chlorophyll. Our blood is almost identical, our hemoglobin, I correct myself, in our blood is almost identical to chlorophyll. The only difference is inside our hemoglobin, the center of the molecule is iron. The center of the molecule in chlorophyll is magnesium. That is the only difference. Of course, if there's iron in the soil, then your green foods and their chlorophyll do have iron in them. But the only difference between it and our blood is the very center of the molecule. Chlorophyll has been used by old-time nutritionists in place of blood transfusions. It builds your blood. The phenomenal thing about chlorophyll, if you know what chelation is, it's when it's bonded to something. Chlorophyll is unique in that it's one of the rare substances that passes the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is a barrier in your brain to protect your brain from toxins that get in your bloodstream. Well, it can be hard to get detoxifiers into your brain because of this barrier. Chlorophyll just flows right through the blood-brain barrier, goes in there like it does in other places in your body, and it bonds to or chelates poisons. It literally binds their molecule with the molecules of poisons and creates a non-toxic molecule so the body can get rid of the toxins. Chlorophyll is the ultimate natural, tribal, local, perhaps in your own backyard, detoxifier and blood builder. So we need to eat green to have strong blood and to pull poisons out. Okay, if there were a contest between greens that bring you minerals, that conduct your messages, and let's say between what's in the sea versus what's on the land. Of course, the greens need the minerals to be in the soil in order to absorb them through the roots and digest them, make them thousands of times smaller so that they work wonderfully to get in and back out of your cells. If the minerals are not in the ground, they're not there for the plants to absorb. A lot of people have no idea about this, but plants do not make minerals. They're either in the soil or they're not. Plants make vitamins. Your intestines, your good bacteria, make vitamins also. Not as many as the plants do. But plants absolutely need these minerals in the ground so that they can transfer them to themselves and then to you or to an animal that eats them. The most potent plant of all is seaweed. The problem with seaweed nowadays is, everybody's worried about Fukushima, or at least people who care to look into truth are concerned about Fukushima and what's happened to our seaweed. I have given seaweed to myself, my family, my animals for many years. It does energize and relax both your whole body and especially your muscles. Along with green foods from the land, seaweed builds your bones too. There is no better alkaline forming source and body builder when it comes to minerals than seaweed. There is a possible substitute for the seaweed itself. There are places where you can get sea salt unrefined, and when it's unrefined, it's always speckled with color, which is the minerals in them. When you refine it, a lot of minerals are removed. If you get a source which is, say, Himalayan salt from the bottom of the Himalayas, or there's a source, I'm not going to name a brand, but there's a source which comes from the clean side of the Great Salt Lake. And it is loaded with minerals that have not been ruined by processing. And these are a couple ways when you get sea salt from inland areas such as the bottom of the Himalayas, the pink Himalayan salt, or when you get them from inland seas. There are some notable places where salt is extracted from inland seas. It, in a way, can be, if you're worried about the seaweed being too radioactive from damaged seas, from Fukushima, the sea salt is a really good substitute. And really, since our blood is mostly, basically mineral salts, those are minerals bonded to salts, our blood is almost identical to seawater, which I've mentioned once before. It's not as high in salt, but the mineral salts in seawater are almost identical to what's supposed to be in our blood. Erosion from rain alone that makes the minerals go downhill has, however long the earth is old, it has fed the seas with these minerals. At the bottom of the Himalayas, similar to a riverbed where, a long time ago, civilizations centered themselves around the edge of the seas and riverbeds because they were so fertile. The Himalayan salt, for example, has the minerals that have come down from the mountains. So these are very important to consider, and keep in mind that certain minerals are damaged by heat, especially sulfur, which is used to build a lot of tissues like hair, skin, and nails. And sulfur is also an anti-inflammatory and aids your immune system. And also iodine, which is very critical to kill germs in your whole body. People have put iodine on wounds. I know people that have gotten rid of skin cancer by applying iodine on it. And iodine is critical, like I said before, for your thyroid, for it to function properly. But minerals like sulfur and iodine are delicate when it comes to heat. So please, when you use your unrefined, colorful, mineral-filled sea salt, hopefully that came from somewhere inland, preferably, please try to put it on your food after your food is cooked, if you're cooking your food. That way, they stay intact, they're not altered by heat, and you can maximize the power of those minerals. I've always given my animals, as long as I've been into health food, which is longer than I've had animals, which you might call pets, I've always given them seaweed basically up to a point where I still give them powdered greens and fresh vegetables that are blended or bulleted. But I added this unrefined inland seaweed just because I pulled back on the ground up powdered seaweed because I was a little concerned about Fukushima. And I did notice that they did have more energy. There was no problems, no side effects. And one of my oldest, who's 10 now, actually, we kind of called it, she had kind of a second puppyhood. It really increased her energy. So it is a thought that perhaps you might want to add some unrefined, high quality sea salt to your pet's food if you don't use the seaweed itself. Animals, animal food that are in the wild versus being raised in a pen, or the chickens that produce eggs from what they call a vegetable diet. Some are advertised as cage free, but they eat all vegetables. Well, chickens were meant to run around in a field somewhere or in the wild, and they were meant to peck. They were meant to peck at bugs, and if the chickens are kept warm enough and out of extreme elements, you don't need to feed them. They will just peck the bugs, and that's plenty food for them. Let's look at, and the reason I brought that up is let's look at animal food. The best animal food, if you're going to consume animal food, is wild animal food, because let's take a dog, for example. When a dog snatches a rabbit and kills it and eats it, the first thing they eat is the guts. If it were a bird, it would be the same thing. If it were a bigger animal, when they take another animal down in this very unpleasant part of nature, which is called the food chain, the first thing they go for is the guts. What is in the guts of the animal that they're eating? Most likely, the animal they're eating, let's take a rabbit or a bird, for example, eats a lot of plants. The rabbit can live solely on plant food, where there are some birds that do eat bugs and worms and other things besides plants. And when the guts are consumed first by an animal who in the wild would eat this wild prey, the guts have semi-digested plant food in them. The dogs and cats don't have much amylase. They have none in their mouths to speak of, if not none at all. Amylase is the one that digests carbohydrates. And by eating the semi-digested guts first, they initially satisfy their appetite first before they eat the rest of the animal. And in this semi-digested gut content, there are plenty enzymes, and it's loaded with vegetables or plant foods. So there is ultimately no true carnivore, because the carnivore eats the animal that ate the plants and goes for the guts first, and they're getting their vegetables that way. I will ultimately be doing a video just on detoxification. But when it comes to what would be something you would have in your yard, in your field, in the jungle, in the wild, the true more community/tribal food, the chlorophyll in the plants is irreplaceable as a detoxifying agent. Please never forget that, because it builds your blood. When your blood is rich, your whole body can work better, and it passes the blood-brain barrier to chelate or bond to poisons and alter their molecules so they are poisons no more. I have used chlorophyll in high doses myself to get really well. It was part of the process of the detoxification, and I have had examples with animals. The reason I got into herbal medicine for my animals was decades ago, when a neighbor intentionally put poison into my yard. But chlorophyll in really high doses actually pulled out a lot of poisons and saved two out of three of my dogs. I have to state this just because of the powers that be. This information, this video is for informational purposes only. I know I've said it before. It is not for prevention, diagnosis, or to treat or cure any of your diseases. It is for information. It's food for thought. Okay, and the reason I wanted to kind of say that right now is because there is a really important thing I do need to mention. For people who have gone with a medical program, of course, and who are on blood thinners, they are usually instructed by their doctors to not consume many green foods because the vitamin K really helps you clot when you should. And it was actually used as a treatment when one of my dogs got a hold of a bar of rat poison in someone's cabin that he forgot he put on the floor. And we quickly made him throw it up. And then even the vet at the time, the closest vet to where we were, that we rushed to, said to take high doses of vitamin K because the rat poison makes the rats or the dogs that accidentally eat it, or other animals that accidentally eat it, makes them bleed to death internally. And that is why vitamin K is an antidote to that. Green foods are high in vitamin K. So I want people, if they're on blood thinners, to not go hog wild with chlorophyll. There are other natural blood thinners besides the ones that are prescription. That's your responsibility to look into that. I'm not telling anyone what to do about that. But for example, garlic and good essential fatty acids like fish oil, which could be affected by Fukushima, or flaxseed oil, which is not from the sea, those there are blood thinners. I know people get in a bind in the first place, from global information and global food and global medical doctors where they are taking blood thinners, so that they don't have a stroke or a heart attack. So I'm not telling people what to do there, but I do have to make the note that because it builds your blood and it helps it clot when it should, if you're on blood thinners, talk to your doctor about green foods. They should be talking to you about green foods in the first place, okay? All right, I'm going to move along. There's one more, backup or companion to chlorophyll for detoxification. And it is zeolite. It's very similar to bentonite clay, but zeolite is like bentonite clay on steroids. Clay absorbs toxins, and clay is loaded with minerals. Clay is not a plant. It is not the ideal source of minerals because it's not from a plant that digests the minerals from the ground. However, it is a phenomenal detoxifier. What zeolite is, as I call it, clay on steroids. Clay is volcanic, bentonite clay, which comes in, it has many other names, is a volcanic ash. And zeolite is volcanic ash that fell from the volcanoes, but fell into the sea. And what makes it different from mere bentonite clay is that when it hit the sea, its molecules formed a cage like this, like a boxy cage, where not only is it because it's negatively charged and toxins and many germs, even stealth pathogens are positively charged, it neutralizes this positively charged toxin. But like bentonite clay does, but what zeolite does, which it's with its cage shaped molecule, is it actually traps the toxins. So zeolite, I have used at times when clay would have been had to have been taken in too great of an amount, and I didn't want to risk a building up in the tissues, the arteries, or the kidneys. Zeolite does a lot more with less as far as comparing it to clay goes. When, for example, I got some fish fertilizer for some of my indoor plants, and my cat apparently ate some. And it would have been, if I followed veterinary instructions, they thought, oh, she must have, some kind of bug, some kind of microbe. They didn't believe it was from fish fertilizer, but I knew darn well that's what she had gotten into. She's an indoor cat. She didn't get into anything outside. And she was really sick really fast and really went down. And the veterinarian system wanted to just give her antibiotics for it. And, we didn't know exactly what microbe this could be. I hadn't refrigerated my liquid fish fertilizer at the time, the fish meal, which was just for indoor plants. We don't know exactly what microbes might have been in there. And I thought, well, even if I did use these antibiotics, they may not get to these microbes. So I gave her, after a couple days of misery and worrying, is this cat going to just keel over on us? I gave her Zeolite. It was properly liquefied. She weighs probably about 15 pounds, and I gave her the equivalent of about a quarter of a teaspoon of Zeolite, which is equal to about one typical herb-sized capsule. And I mixed it with water and gave it to her by way of syringe. Within an hour, she was normal. Go figure. I gave it to her again later that day and once the next day. Never did give her any of the drugs. I bought them to make the vet happy. It's kind of a drastic plan B. But the Zeolite neutralized whatever that was in there. And sometimes you're really sick, not from the bug itself, but from the waste matter from the germs. And so I've also used this when my dogs got into my compost, which is a bit too rich for them. It worked great. I have had, I'm not talking about it in detail now at all, but I've had a particular stealth pathogen which led me much deeper down into the rabbit hole and was already out of the box and in the rabbit hole, but much deeper down the rabbit hole. And clay and or zeolite worked wonders, just wonders. The main reason I was inspired to go ahead and do this topic of basically minerals was because one of my subscribers asked me a lot of questions, and it inspired me because I wrote back and gave him some information on what certain greens do, and it really inspired me to really try to make it clear about the difference between minerals from plants versus supplements. And so I'd like to invite any subscribers or even just viewers who haven't subscribed to let me know what topics that you're interested in when it comes to this issue of producing your own food, and what foods are much more potent and much more effective than others. It's a note especially to preppers, because you can only store up so much. But if you do have a patch of ground or you do have property, there's stuff that you can plant ahead of time to be there for you when your supplies run out. There are a couple more types of plants that I'm going to do videos on. One is grapevines. Concord grape vines are just tough as all get out. The biggest danger usually for them is you might have to cover them for about a month or month and a half of the year, because Japanese beetles like to eat them, but it doesn't kill them. Other than that, they just tend to go gangbusters, and they do really well in wet or dry climates, and you can eat the leaves. I want to do a video on that and how you don't, I'm trying to help you find food. You do not have to replant. They will go on and on and on year after year. You just have to find a place to just kind of let their vines hang on. Another one is raspberries that reproduce themselves. Even if you mow them down, they will come back. Raspberry leaves are really fantastic, quote, herbal medicine, and especially for the females. And if the animals eat them, or you raise bunny rabbits and they eat them, they're the better for it. Another one is cilantro. The reason you don't have to rebuy the seeds again is because they have, actually, cilantro is coriander. It's seeds. It's round ball-like seeds about the size of a BB. It's coriander. So, and these seeds fall down. You can even grow these in pots. And they fall down and they replant themselves. So, or you can collect them, save them through the winter, and just drop them on the dirt, either on just in the ground or raised bed or even in pots, and cover it with just a little bit of healthy soil or compost, and they come back. Plus, depending on your climate, they tend to play dead when it gets really hot, and then they come right back again. And cilantro is especially a heavy metal detoxifier. Cilantro is very high in chlorophyll also. And one more thing to say for you preppers, or you people into preparedness, consider growing nuts if you're going to just put some trees up. Besides fruit and fruit trees that come back year after year, nuts have protein and fat. And if you have a store of other proteins or proteins that you've bought, animal or plant-based, you might have some backup fat and protein if you have nut trees. I personally have pecan and almond trees, but pecan trees take a long time to produce. Almond trees just go nuts. Probably within their second or third year, you're going to have almonds. Well, that's it for now. Until I make another video, please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. If you like, be well. Until later.